Hey, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Matthias Allred.
I'm Dave Pettit.
Hey, and today we're going to be talking about the FHA 203K rehab loans.
Awesome loan. This is going to give these guys the opportunity to buy a home and finance the fix-up costs. This is an awesome program.
Okay, so they can buy a house and get money out to fix it.
Yep, up to $35,000.
Awesome. Great program. So let's get into it. We're going to be talking about the guidelines, the qualifications, some things that you need to be aware of as a homeowner. And then we're also going to show you how you can get qualified for this for your next home purchase.
Yeah, let's jump right into it.
All right, let's go ahead. All right, so the FHA loan, rehab loan, it's a really awesome product, right? It's a great loan right here. Before we jump into that, let's talk about what's happening in real estate right now.
Yeah, so all over the place you're hearing about this national real estate crisis. Foreclosures everywhere. Mortgage lenders are tightening guidelines. That's no secret. You can't do things that we could do a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, that's a big deal. A lot of people come to us and they're aware of these changes, but maybe not aware of all of them. But lender guidelines have really tightened up.
It's a lot harder, guys, to get a home loan than it was a couple years ago. There's just no doubt. No matter how you try to paint that picture, that's the way that it is. It does require more of a down payment, which puts people in a pinch as well.
Yeah, it's tough. So in the news, you're hearing about all of this stuff. A big one that we hear about a lot are short sales. We mentioned foreclosures and bank-owned properties.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff is just all over the place right now. It's in the news, it's in the media, it's everywhere.
Well, and part of the problem with the media is they paint it as a doom and gloom type scenario, right? But really the question is this really bad news?
And I just think at the end of the day, it's how you perceive that. It's how you look at it. In the real estate market, you can either look at it as the stinky real estate market, or you can jump for joy because there's a lot of great deals out there.
I've seen people buy phenomenal properties at great discounts. I mean, everything's on sale right now.
It is. So, let's fix something up. We'll show you how to do that. We'll show you how to do it with the bank's money.
Awesome. So before we get into the rehab, let's just kind of go over a couple of quick overviews of the rehab loan and of the FHA loans, just so that you can have kind of a basic understanding of what we're talking about. So this program, the 203K rehab loan, allows you to take advantage of properties that need to be fixed up, like a lot of these bank owns and short sales. And again, it's not uncommon to get great deals on these properties because of their condition.
Right, so a lot of times people don't treat their properties too well on the way out. We've seen people rip cabinets out, rip tile out, rip walls out,
right,
sheetrock damage, everything. And the banks aren't really in a position, they're not contractors, they're not really in a position to go fix up all of these things. So what does that do to the market condition?
Well, the banks get these houses back, they don't want to fix them up, and so they sit there. And the banks, in order for them to get rid of them, they drastically discount them so that they can sell these properties.
Right, they have to. They're not going to sell for fair market value. So, yeah, I mean, the other thing about this, again, this is an FHA loan. Okay. So it has the same requirements as an FHA loan.
And we're going to go over those in just a second, right?
Yep.
And what we found is that we've been able to help some great people get killer deals on properties because they're aligning themselves with a great team that understands how to take advantage of this situation.
Yeah, not everybody does these 203K loans, and so you just got to make sure that you're working with the right people.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go over a quick guide on FHA. We're going to touch on some of these and then get in a little bit more depth on the next few slides. But FHA always requires a down payment of 3.5% of the purchase price, and that 3.5% can be gift funds, right?
Right, yeah, so that can come from mom, dad, aunt, uncle, brother, sister. It can come from your employer, which is pretty cool. So
awesome. It
doesn't have to be yours.
Right, so that's a great way to get into a home. FHA requires a 640 credit score or above. General debt guidelines are, the FHA guidelines are 29 over 41, but we've seen them as high as 46 over 56. And in the next few slides, we'll give you an example about that.
Right, you see that term AU right there, and what that stands for is automated underwriting. So that's a system that we run on the computer that basically tells us if you're approved or not. And that's where we've seen a little bit of the higher approval debt-to-income ratios, which don't let that scare you. We'll talk about that in a second.
Right. So two other things about FHA. They always have an upfront mortgage insurance. Right now it's currently 1%. And then they always have a monthly mortgage insurance. And that factor, depending on your down payment, is 0.85 or 0.9%.
Right, and we'll get into some calculations here in a second. As far as the debt-to-income ratio, like Matthias said, the FHA standard debt-to-income ratio are 29 over 41. So what does that mean? The 29%, or the top ratio, is called the housing ratio. And what that means is the total proposed housing payment, and that housing payment includes what?
Principal and interest on your loan, your hazard insurance, property taxes, mortgage insurance, and any HOA fees if they're if you're living in an HOA.
Right, and we'll show you how to calculate and determine all of these things. So you're going to take those, you're going to add them together, and you're going to divide it by your gross monthly income. Not your net, but the gross, okay?
So quick example, if your total housing is $1,000 a month and you make $4,000 a month, you've got a 25% housing ratio.
Correct. So the bottom ratio, or that 41 that you're seeing, that's the total expense ratio. And that combines your housing expenses along with any other expenses that might report on your credit. So like auto loans, student loans, credit cards, what are some things that wouldn't?
It's not going to count your utility payments, your insurance, your gas money, food bill at the grocery store, those type of things.
Yeah, exactly. So a cell phone isn't going to report on there, things like that. Those aren't. If it's not on credit, we don't care about it necessarily for the purposes of this calculation.
So for a quick example, we've got a $1,000 house payment again, and if you have $500 worth of car payments, $200 credit cards, that means you've got total payments of $1,700. You divide that by your $4,000 a month gross income, and you've got a 42.5% debt ratio.
Correct. So that 42.5% that you see is obviously over the 41%, but like we said on the previous slide, that's just FHA's general guideline. That's not set in stone. When you run these automated underwriting systems, we've received approvals much higher than
Right. We've seen, like we say, up to 56% debt ratio. And what an automated approval does is it takes everything into account, not just your total debt. So it'll take your credit scores, your credit history, your employment, type of income, how long you've been at your job, any kind of additional assets or reserves that you might have. So it takes everything into account, and that's why it sometimes will allow you to approve a higher debt ratio.
Right. So at the end of this slide, we say it's imperative that your mortgage professional runs your file through an automated underwriting system upon pre-approval if there are any concerns about your debt-to-income ratio. So if you know you're below that 29 to 41%, it might not be necessary that they run the automated underwriting, but if you're above that, before you go out looking for homes, you want to know that you're approved for it.
Exactly, make sure. So let's run through an FHA loan example, and then we'll get into the rehab loan and some of the benefits of that. So in our example, you've got a $200,000 purchase price. Your down payment is going to be 3.5%, or $7,000. Okay, so your new loan amount is $194,930. Now, the way you get to that is your $200,000 purchase price minus your down payment of $7,000, and then plus your 1% upfront funding fee for FHA. And that upfront funding fee is of the loan amount $1,930. So,
and that is financed into the loan. That's not something separate.
Right. You don't have to pay for that out of pocket. So, for our example, we're going to do a 5.5% interest rate. So our principal and interest payment is going to be $1,106.79. Your monthly mortgage insurance is $146.20, and then, for example, $150 for property taxes, $40 for insurance, and an HOA fee of $55. That's going to give you a total payment of $1,497.99.
Right. Now, just to touch on real quick, the monthly mortgage insurance, that $146.20, that's the loan amount, so that $194,930 times 0.9%, which is FHA's monthly mortgage insurance factor when you're putting down 3.5%. If you're putting down 5% or more, then it's 0.85. So you go 1754.37 is how you get that, divided by 12 equals the $146.20. So that's when you take the loan amount times it by that percentage or that factor. So that's how you calculate that. That's how we calculate it.
Right. Now, we don't want you to be overwhelmed by this. This isn't anything that you guys have to know as far as looking for a home, but we want you to understand when you're looking at your total housing payment, your mortgage professional is going to take all of this into account. And you just need to understand that your total house payment isn't just the principal and interest. It's your taxes, insurance, mortgage insurance, and any HOAs if you've got those.
Correct.
So.
Okay, so now back to the 203K, the specific loan that we're talking about. How do you take this, old and ugly, and turn it into this, new and updated?
Yeah, exactly. Or what if you've got a kitchen that is just outdated and hasn't been updated yet? How do you turn a 1970s kitchen into a brand new modern kitchen?
Exactly. So there's two types of 203K loans, okay? The standard 203K, nobody does this loan, do they?
Yeah, it's pretty much a tear down the house and rebuild it type of loan.
Right, you might as well get a construction loan kind of thing. Nobody does this. Don't bother asking. Really and truly, there's just not a lot of banks that do this at all.
Right. The type of loans that people want to focus on right now are how do I buy a house and fix it up not necessarily rebuild the house.
Correct. And that's this 203KS, which we call it the golden ticket, and this is the 203K Streamline. It's for non-structural repairs, so no plans, nothing that you got to move walls on. We'll get into that in detail in a second. You can get up to $35,000 to do this. You can buy the home and fix it up with one loan, and again, it's the same guidelines as FHA.
Exactly. So when should you consider a rehab loan? When you can't get regular financing on a property because of the condition. Like we say, it's got the kitchen cabinets ripped out or anything like that. Bank-owned homes that need repairs, short sales that need to be fixed up, HUD homes that need to be updated. Good bones but ugly skin. I like this one. Say you're driving around in the neighborhood and you find a house you just absolutely love. It's in the right neighborhood. It's the right type of house. You like the layout and everything, but it's just ugly. You know, it's got that green shag carpet or the pink bathroom type thing.
Right.
So,
yeah, or something you like the home but hate the cabinets, and then my favorite is, yuck, what kind of stain is that?
We've been out, every time you go out looking for houses, you always come into that one house where you walk in the living room and you're like, wow, I hope that's like spaghetti and meatballs that got spilled or something like that.
And not a dead person or something of that.
Exactly.
Because it's happened. So
great reasons on why you should consider the rehab loan.
So let's talk about eligibility for just a second. This does, again, have the same guidelines as the FHA loans like we've touched on. You can do a 1 to 4 family, so a single family, a duplex, triplex, fourplex, condos, and PUDs. If they're FHA approved, okay, then you can do those as well. Primary residence, so it's got to be owner-occupied, not for investment properties. And most important, the contractor has to be on our approved list.
Exactly. So this isn't a home for investors to buy a house, fix it up, and sell it.
Right.
It's for people that want to live there. So some of the improvements that you can do on these rehabs, like we say, anything that's not structural is what you can do. So you can remodel the kitchens, bathrooms, new flooring, new appliances, kitchen cabinets. You can replace all the flooring, so tile, hardwood, carpet, anything like that. New paint, both on the interior and exterior. Replace your windows, roof, gutters, HVAC. This is a big one. A lot of homes need electrical updated or the plumbing to be updated. Mm-hmm. You know, we come across some great homes like in the Sugar House area that just have the electrical from 1930.
Right.
Need to update that. It's a great reason right there. Anything exterior on the house like the stucco, bricks, paint, siding, anything like that.
Right. Accessibility improvements for persons with disabilities. That's a big one.
Yep.
So you can use it for that. Repair, replace, add exterior decks, patios, porches. Finish, remodel basement, basement waterproofing, weatherization, that's storm windows, doors, insulation, weather stripping, all that good stuff. Ton of things. Pretty much anything that you can think of, except for the few exceptions we'll get to in a second, you can do with this thing as long as it doesn't require plans.
Exactly. So some of the things that you can't do, ineligible improvements, are, like we said, anything that's structural or requires plans or an engineer or architect to do up on the house. You can't add or remove square footage. You can't really move load-bearing walls. And this is kind of a downer. You can't do landscaping or site amenities, meaning you can't like put in a waterfall or a water feature,
right.
Shrubs and stuff. There's some time restrictions that you have on the rehab. It's got to be anything that can be completed within 6 months, and the remodel work has to start within 30 days after we close on it. So it's not something you can postpone for a year and then do the work on.
Right, exactly. You also, unfortunately, Matthias, I know you're trying to get that swimming pool at your house, but
I wanted one.
Can't do that. Can't do luxury items, guys. No swimming pools, tennis courts, hot tubs, gazebos, barbecue pits. Basically, if it's not an improvement that's permanent,
part of the house,
you can't do it.
No, that's too bad.
Unfortunately.
Hey, what about, we get this question a lot, what about fences? A lot of people wonder if you can put in a fence for the yard on this one.
Kind of on the fence about that.
The guideline is if it's a safety issue, then yeah, we can. If it's a site amenity, landscaping type thing, then no, we can't. So if your house backs up to a canal or a busy road or something, and you need it for safety reasons, then we can get that put in.
Right,
so
exactly.
If you just want to have a pretty fence around your yard, probably not, because that's considered a site amenity. So the 203K process, step one, you're going to call your favorite mortgage loan officer and get pre-approved. 2, you're going to find a property and make an offer on it as you go out with your real estate agent. 3 is you've got to get quotes from the contractors on what kind of repairs and improvements you're going to do. 4, send everything into the lender. We get our appraisal ordered. Loan goes to underwriting, approved. We close on the loan. Disbursements and payments are made, and the contractor starts work on the property. So that's just a quick overview on that.
Quick overview of how that whole thing happens. Things to know before you offer. Okay, purchase price is what you're paying the sellers for the house. This does not include the cost of rehab.
Right, and that's what they write up on the real estate purchase contract.
Correct, yep. So the house has to appraise for purchase price before the repairs are done.
Okay.
And then the max loan amount cannot exceed 110% of the appraised value after repair. So give us a quick example on that.
So what that means, FHA understands there's some repairs that you're going to do that don't necessarily increase the value of the home. For example, we talked about updating the electrical.
Right.
Having new electrical doesn't really improve value, but FHA understands that that's something important to do. And so if after you've done your whole remodel, your house appraises for $200,000, you can still get financing up to 220% of that, because some of those costs, again, aren't going to increase value, but they're important to do.
220,000, not 220%, right?
Oh, 220,000. Sorry about that.
That would be great, but no. So 220,000 on that example. So 10% basically more than what it appraises for, right?
Right.
Okay, so the borrowers must qualify. You have to qualify off the max loan amount, not the purchase price. So if you think, oh, I'm going to buy this property for 200, but I'm going to finance 220, you have to qualify off of 220, right?
Right.
Okay, and then the down payment is based on the loan amount, not the purchase price. So that's important to remember. Again, on the same example, you'd be doing 3.5% of 220, not 200,000. So if you're budgeting for that, that's important to take into consideration.
Exactly. So do we get the question, do we have to have exact repairs on what we're going to do? And the answer is always absolutely yes. We need a detailed list of what you're going to be doing to the house. And why do we need that, Dave?
We got to have that because, honestly, guys, this is where everybody gets hung up in the process. Oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. It has to be detailed out. The underwriters are going to make sure that everything's detailed out. The contractor needs to know exactly what's going to happen. And that's basically not only for FHA, but just so everything flows throughout the process and we don't get hung up anywhere.
Right, and that's, once we get the bids from your contractor, that's what we send into the appraiser. And he's going to give us a as-is value and the after repairs value. So they need to know what those repairs are in detail so that we can do those. Okay. Generally, you need to work with one general contractor or subcontractors for specialty items. For example, if you're just replacing the windows in your home, you don't need a general contractor for that. You need a window company.
Right.
Or if you're just doing carpet, you need a subcontractor that does carpet, not necessarily a general contractor. Okay?
And you can use like a Home Depot or Lowe's for that kind of thing as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. The big stores, you can do that.
If they're doing the install.
So the contingency reserve, this is standard on all construction loans. We're going to set aside 15% of your remodel costs as a contingency reserve in case there are any cost overruns, changes, unforeseen problems, anything like that.
It's just a buffer account so you don't get stuck with the bill at the end of the day.
Exactly. So 50% of the rehab costs get dispersed at closing, paid out right to the contractor, and then the other 50% gets paid when all the work is done.
Right.
So that's nice. They get money up front to get started on everything.
And usually it takes about 30 days for them to get paid after the completion and the final inspection's been done and all that good stuff, right?
Exactly, yep. As a general rule, the homeowner can't be the general contractor or the subcontractor. There are some exceptions.
Some exceptions, like if you're a licensed plumber, right, and you want to redo the plumbing in your house, then you can provide that documentation and you can actually be the sub on that particular project.
They won't pay out on the labor on it, but they'll pay out on materials.
Right.
If you're the licensed plumber, you can't do the drywall or the carpet.
Right.
You've just got to do that specialty item. So,
and we also have contractors that we're more than happy to put you in touch with as well. A lot of people get scared by that part of the 203K loan, but we can make that process painless for you as well.
Yeah, if you're not sure who to speak to, just let us know and we'll get you in touch with a good contractor.
Right. Okay, so timeline for escrow, just so you're aware, this loan does take a little bit longer. It's not the loan that necessarily takes longer. You guys know us, we like to close loans fast, but it's the process, right? So plan on at least 45 days for escrow for the loan process, start to finish. But for 45 days, in order to make this happen, you have to be on top of everything as well. When we need bids, we've got to get bids. The things that you're asked for by your loan officer, you need to get those in right away to them.
The biggest hang-up that we've found is the homeowners deciding what it is that you want to do to the house.
Right.
So you usually have to go through 2 or 3 times, decide what kind of carpet or what kind of tile or what kind of paint, if you're going to do a 2-tone or a 3-tone. The holdup is just deciding what needs to be done and then getting those bids from the contractor.
Right. So once you get that list put together of the things that you want fixed, you'll get a detailed bid from the contractor and the subs. You'll submit all the you'll submit all the bids and paperwork to the lender, and then we'll move as quickly as you, the client, and the contractors allow us to move. So,
yeah, and remember, if you change your bids halfway through, we just got to start all over.
right, yeah.
So try and get an idea of what you want to do, and let's just move forward on it.
Exactly.
So here's an example of a rehab loan purchase right here. So purchase price is $150,000, and the current appraised value is $150,000. So we're just
good
fine
there.
Yeah, awesome. You go through the house with a contractor, and you come up with $22,000 worth of rehab that you want to do to the house. Okay, so maybe you're redoing the kitchen, the bathrooms, the carpet, and you're putting on a new deck out back.
Right.
Okay, $22,000. So your gross costs are going to be your purchase price plus the rehab plus your 15% contingency, which is your $175,000, $300,000. Okay, your down payment is based on that gross cost, not the purchase price.
Right.
So your down payment's 3.5% of the $175,000, $300,000. Your appraised value after you fix everything up, the appraiser gives a value of $205,000, and so we're just fine on that. We're not going to have any appraisal issues. After we close on the loan, the repairs can begin, and remember they have to start within 30 days. And then once you're done with all of the work, we order the final inspection, and the remaining sum gets paid out to the contractor.
Right, yep. So 30 days, got to start 60 days or 6 months after it's got to be all wrapped up. So you have to take that into consideration when you're talking about seasonal things. If you want to put a fence in and they approve that and it's November.
Right, there's snow on the ground. It's probably not going to be gone for 6 months.
Exactly. So you have to take those things in consideration when you're doing your list of repairs.
Right. One other thing I want to point out is in our example, we had an appraised value after repairs of $205,000. We've generally found that this is very common because of the great deals that people are getting on the purchase price, is that they can do this fix-up and actually have equity in the home.
Right. That's one of the great points about this program. That's actually very common. I think this is actually a real example that Matthias had right here. This is I don't think that I've ever had one of these 203K loans that the purchase or the appraised value after repairs hasn't come in significantly higher than the purchase price.
Right. And again, that's because all of these short sales, all of the bank owns, you're just getting these homes at an awesome deal. And so once you fix it up, you're going to have great equity into these properties.
Right. So the benefits of this program, again, it's going to get the home you want the way that you want it. Mm-hmm. And I mean that a lot of times people settle in the housing markets. They just go out, this one will do. They get sick of looking at things.
I don't love the kitchen, but it's fine.
Right, and this is going to open up a whole new window for you. This is going to open up so many more properties that you probably would have passed on before that you can get in there, you can make this thing exactly how you want it. It's going to allow you to purchase homes that would otherwise be unpurchasable. So things, for example, FHA wouldn't lend on a house that didn't have a kitchen.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I saw one in Eagle Mountain just the other day, that beautiful home. People ripped the whole kitchen out whenever they left. Great product for that particular.
That home would maybe need $10,000, $15,000 worth of work on it.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
You're getting it a killer deal. You'd probably walk into $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 worth of equity.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
it's the only way to get money towards repairs and upgrades financed into your loan. There's no way to do this once you own the home. This is a purchase money loan. It's not a refinance loan. This is literally, aside from a home equity line, which is almost non-existent now,
right.
This is the only way to do it.
Or, I've seen people do it the wrong way, and that's buy a home and then go to Home Depot or Lowe's and get a credit card and put everything on a credit card.
Right.
Bad way to do it. If you can wrap it into your loan, awesome. So you hear a lot of people say, great, this is awesome. What do we do next? Okay, what we'd like you to do is give us a call and start the pre-approval process. Our number is listed here as well as on the end slide. We'll give you all of our contact information. But we want to get you started on the 203K loan process. We can refer you to one of our great realtor partners if you don't have an agent that you're working with. And we always like to make sure the agents are familiar with the 203K loan so that they know what to expect and plan for also. Also, if you don't have a contractor or know of a contractor that you want to work with, we can introduce you to some of our approved contractors as well. Okay? Some other great resources that we have for you.
Yeah, UtahHomeBuyerEDU.com. This is a great place that you can find out about other loan types if this isn't the one for you. Just got some really good resources about home buying in general.
Right, exactly. So life's good with the rehab loan. Again, you buy the house that you want to, you fix it up the way that you want it to be, and every single homeowner that we've worked with on this loan is just thrilled with the end result.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said before, you get in there and you don't have to settle anymore. You can buy the house you want and you can make it your own.
Exactly. So we'd love to help you out with your home purchase, and especially with this remodel loan. Give us a call if you guys have any questions. Our information is listed here.
Yeah, thanks for taking time to attend this workshop today. We hope it's been helpful to you, and please feel free to call us with any questions.